For today's Getting Real vlog, I thought we would talk about relationships and love because it is February and Valentine's Day is around the corner. So, this is especially a good topic for, people in wheelchairs. Or other disabilities. It's a big deal because a lot of times we can struggle with those things for a lot of different reasons. So I just wanted to, cover a couple of these reasons and talk about those things for a minute. So let's talk about, relationships. And, for people with disabilities, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're on crutches, if you're deaf or blind or whatever, it can be really, really hard to be in a relationship for several reasons. I mean, the number one thing that I think gets people, and keeps some people away from relationships with disability is maybe the confidence to even pursue one. I think that one is huge. And I think that's something that, each individual is going to have to, get over at some point in their life and say, you know what? I am worth it. I am worth being in a relationship with. I'm worth being loved, despite my disabilities, and especially, a lot of times we may worry, is the other half okay with doing a few extra things for me? Like, for example, if you don't drive, can they put your wheelchair in the car? Is that something that you're both okay with, comfortable with? Because, sometimes even myself, I mean, I am pretty well adapted to things, but, sometimes I need help. And I feel like I can be a burden sometimes to other people. And that's a very normal thing to feel if you have a disability. And I think that can translate into relationships, and maybe why some of us don't pursue them is we don't want to be, a burden. And I think that way of thinking is false. I think the way, we should think about it is, if they're willing to do this with us and be a partner with us, then we need to accept the fact that we'll need help sometimes. Also, I would say that it's okay to consider the fact that you can give help in other ways. Remember, we talked about skills and gifts and those types of things. We can give back in different ways that perhaps maybe somebody else can't. So there can be an equal exchange of helping each other. You just got to get a little bit creative, So, yeah, I think that's a couple of big issues with relationships. Another thing is, how are they going to adapt to my life in a relationship? And personally, I think most people are pretty well adaptable, so I don't think that's a huge issue. Let's talk about the other side. If you know someone who's disabled, if you're interested in them, get a chance to get to know them, They might be shy at first, but that's okay. Let them know that you're willing to help them in whatever they need. Let them know that it's okay. Let them know that they can give back in different ways, and it can work out, So that's my thoughts on that. Another issue is love, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. A lot of people who have disabilities, maybe they've not had a lot of luck with that. Maybe a lot of people aren't willing to give them a chance, and I think a lot of times that can translate into maybe a little bit of neediness. I know that I've made those mistakes in my life, here and there, and I look back and I just realize how ridiculous that I've been, and I don't plan on being that way again. But, for some of us, that's a real issue, being needy, feeling like, somebody actually likes us, or, somebody is in love with us, I gotta grab it while I can, and that's fine if you want love, but I don't think it works well when somebody's too needy, if that makes sense. So I think that can be another huge issue. So yeah. And if you're on the other side, if you notice that somebody's really needy, it's okay to tell them, let them know. If they're mature enough to own up to that, then you guys can just talk about it and say, hey, I just need a little space, so that's really all it comes down to. The biggest thing that I want to point out of all of this really is, when it comes to love and relationships, communication is so important. That's the biggest thing. Communicate about these things, about your fears, about your issues. Talk about it. That will be a huge lifesaver. So that would be my biggest tip in all of this, whether you have a disability or if you're interested in someone with a disability. Talk about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you next vlog.